So my name is Chris Betcher. I work on the Google for Education team. I do have a long history in education as a teacher. I taught for about 30 years. I was originally an art teacher, so this is kind of close to my heart here. And then after I sort of moved on from teaching art, I taught a lot of multimedia and design and computing. So the Google Arts and Culture collection is very much close to my heart. It's such an amazing collection. And I'm always astounded to find so many people just simply don't even know it exists. So I hope you've joined us today to learn a little bit more about that. There is a chat feature here in Google Meet. You'll find it down in the, I don't know which corner to point to, but down in the lower right-hand corner, there's a little speech bubble. Feel free to pop any questions or comments or anything you have along the way in there, because it's always nice to get that feedback. And speaking of feedback, down in the very bottom of the screen, you'll see there's like a smiley face emoji along the buttons all across the bottom of the screen. If you press on that emoji button, you'll get another row of emojis that appear above it. And if you click on any of them, and everyone can have a go at this right now, if you click on any of them, you'll see it will send up a little emoji up the screen, just like that. So if you see things that you like as we go through, feel free to celebrate it with a little thumbs up or a cornucopia of confetti or whatever it is there. All right, so let me share my screen. And I'm going to try and do two things today. I'm going to share my screen for a little bit here on my computer because I want you to see some of the things that are here. But then I'm going to switch and share my phone screen because there is, in fact, an app for arts and culture. And the app does some really cool things that the website doesn't do. So I think it's worth actually sort of checking out both sides of that, because the app is really neat. If you don't have the app on your phone, while we're talking, I might encourage you to head over to the App Store if you're an Apple user, or the Play Store if you're an Android user, and download the app called Google Arts and Culture, and just install that while we're chatting so you can have a play with it. So Google Arts and Culture originally started its life as a thing called the Google Art Project. And it was just a little internal project that a few people at Google got together and started sort of, cobbling an idea together, which is how a lot of things start at Google, which some people get an idea and they just start building something. And it originally started as an idea of creating a virtual walkthrough of some art galleries around the world. And that idea grew to encompass more and more art galleries, and then some museums, and all sorts of cultural institutes started to get on board with what we were doing with this art project. Then it became called the Google Arts Institute, I think it was called at one point, and it finally is renamed now to just being called Google Arts and Culture. And it's hard to describe. It is just a massive collection of cultural artifacts, art, museums, anthropology, you name it, like anything that you might find in a museum of any type, almost anywhere in the world, you will find in this collection. It's all been digitized, but then because we have some really weird and clever people that work at Google, we've turned a lot of this stuff into little games and activities that you can play. You can use it with your students. So I will try and walk you through some of it. So to get to Arts and Culture, the address is literally artsandculture.google.com. I will just copy that and drop it into the chat, just like so. So if you're not there already, you can click that link and it will take you over there. And every day you come here, it looks different. So this is really hard. It's one of these products that's really hard to try and do demos and stuff with, because every time I come here, it doesn't look anything like the last time I was here. But you can see it has some things. So if I scroll down the front page here, right at the top, it's got this exhibit that's showing at the moment called Word on the Street. It's focusing on some graffiti stuff. So it's got a story there about Banksy. There's a thing about street art around the world, the history of street art. When I was an art teacher, I actually did a unit of work on street art and graffiti. So this would have been really cool and useful for me at the time. And it comes from the Street Museum of Art. If I scroll down a little bit, there's a game here where you can guess a hidden word based on puzzles, which might come back and have a look at that in a sec. They have today's top picks. So every day they come up with some new stuff in here. So right now there's a great thing about Bob Marley's legacy, where you can watch intimate conversations with Bob Marley's family. Here's an illustrated map about eating your way across Argentina. Julie Meretu, who I have no idea who that is. But, you know, it's a fantastic place to just learn new things. Here's a great exhibit called Portraits of African Americans with Obama there. There's museums you might not have ever heard of, like the American Jazz Museum or the Street Art Museum in the Netherlands. And so it's just this cornucopia of cool stuff that changes all the time and different activities. So like, Sandra, what's your favorite color?
Let's go crimson.
Crimson. Oh, okay. The closest thing I'm going to get here, I think, is that reddy color. So I'm just going to go with that red. And that is going to pop up a thing there. And it's going to show me a whole bunch of artworks that contain the color red. Or there's some crimson-y sort of things in there, right? So it's just, again, if I can just back up a sec and tell you, like, I don't know if you know what Google's mission statement is, but our mission statement is to what's the wording of it now? To take the world's information and make it accessible and useful, right? And the world's information encompasses so much stuff. And so, you know, this is one way of looking at things in the world. I'll pick green. Here's a whole bunch of paintings that contain the color green. That's one example. If I scroll down a bit further, there's lots and lots that come up there. Let me go back a step. And just keep scrolling down here. Museum Explorer. Anyone ever been to the Guggenheim Museum in New York City? I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I have actually been to that one. But here's the Guggenheim Museum. You can see if I go in here, I've got a street view 360-degree walk around. Oh, Karen, am I getting that thing again? Where it's lagging?
We've got the lag again, yes.
The lag thing again. That is really bizarre.
So we had another session earlier today for the admin staff on spreadsheets, and we had to call time on it because there was a bit of lag through Google Meet.
I cannot understand what's going on here. You know what? I'm going to try and join on a different computer. Can you bear with me one sec? See, that just changed there. It's weird. You know what I mean? I'm going to switch to my phone and see if that is any better. So I'm just going to stop sharing this screen.
And if not, Chris, maybe I could share my screen and you could just sort of direct
Yeah, we can try that. Let me try and do this. Let me join this thing and hopefully where's it gone? Rejoin this screen and share my screen right there. Continue. Start. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see my phone screen there.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm just gonna, it's an app, and here it is right here. It's the Arts and Culture app. So I'll just pop into there. And you can see it is basically a web version of what I was showing you before. So, you know, there's that Color Explorer thing I was just showing you where you can go in there and, you know, pick a color and it'll find all those artworks. So that's, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say here is, you know, the stuff you can do on the web, a lot of it you can just do on the mobile app as well. But let's just go and look at some other things. So it's got some browsing across the top here. So visual arts, if you're interested in visual arts, it's going to come up here and it's going to be able to take you through a whole bunch of like exploring artworks. Now, one of the nice things, here's a girl with a pearl earring from the Mauritshuis Gallery in Amsterdam, I believe. And you can see it's giving me a little hint there where I can zoom in. And so a lot of these photos and stuff that have been added in here have been taken with what's called gigapixel imagery. So you can zoom in a really long way and move around the image and actually start to really inspect that image up close. Much higher resolution photography than you would normally get. So, you know, you can pick any painting and do that. Now, here's the other cool thing, because I'll just go back a sec. Let's go back to that image. One of these things you do, if I scroll down there, you'll see, you saw the zoom in thing. I can also, there's this great thing where it says view in augmented reality. If I click on that and launch what's called the art projector. So this is my phone now. You're looking at, I'm working from home today, so I'm sitting in my room here. But if I just point that down to the floor and tap that, drag that artwork up there like that. That is now Girl with a Pearl Earring sitting in my bedroom, right? And that's giving me an idea of the actual size of that painting because it's doing it in augmented reality for me. So it's like sitting on a pole there in my on my floor. You can get an idea about how big that actually is. I remember as an art teacher, sometimes I was always surprised when I discovered how big or how small some paintings actually were, because what you see in the book doesn't necessarily make you imagine how big that painting really is. So lots of things.
Mona Lisa being a case in point.
What's that one?
The Mona Lisa being a case in point.
Exactly, exactly. So here's Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, for example. I mean, one of the things as an art teacher we often talk about is the way Van Gogh used brushstrokes and the expressive use of brushstrokes. And again, because of that gigapixel imagery, you can zoom in much closer than you ever would imagine you'd be able to zoom in because of this gigapixel imagery that we're using. So, you often hear about, your digital camera gets measured in megapixels. Well, these are gigapixels. So this is like 1,000 times more resolution than a typical camera. So that's kind of interesting that you can do that. Again, with that painting, you can view it in augmented reality, but you can also view it in Street View. So if I tap on that Street View button there, you can see it opens up. And now it's like I'm standing inside the gallery where that painting is actually hanging. And which wall is it on there? There it is right there, hanging on that wall. So I get to see like the interior of the gallery where this painting is actually hanging. So if I don't want to use augmented reality to put it in my room, I can use virtual reality to see it in someone else's room. I can use my finger to move around as well if I want to sort of explore that gallery, see what else is hanging next to that gallery. I can zoom in and see there's one of his other paintings hanging on that wall there, and there's who's that one? Rousseau, I think. Is that one? Anyway, so lots of cool ways you can explore. Now, what I wanted to show you, some of the other things you can do here is, you see at the bottom of the screen here, it says play. If I tap on the play button, it actually has a whole bunch of sort of just weird and interesting things you can do with this stuff. Like, for example, poem postcards. So let's have a play with the poem postcards. It'll open it up and it'll pick an artwork. Now, if I don't like that artwork, I can pick another one by saying more artworks. And let's go with, say, this one by Degas, right? The Ballerinas by Degas. What sort of poem would I like? I can have a sonnet or an acrostic or a limerick or an ode, or I don't know what a villanelle is. Let's do a limerick, right? And say select. And it's just going to use some AI to write a poem, write a limerick in this case, about Degas' dances. There once was a painting by Degas of dancers at the bar all in a rage. They stretched and they twirled and their legs they unfurled, and the audience watched in awe and amaze. I could probably write a better poem, but what an interesting starting point for an activity that you might do with children, right? Mm-hmm. Just get them to pick an artwork that they like, generate a poem about it, talk about the poem, maybe write a better poem, write their own poems. So a lot of this is just interesting starts. Geo artwork, here's another interesting one you might play with students. And you can do visual arts or sculpture or places or textiles or whatever. Let's do visual arts. So I'll just tap visual arts there. And what it will do is it will give me a visual art. So if I just tap it to see a bit bigger, okay, so it looks like some lilies. And like, where was that painting, or where is that painting kept? I have no idea. I've never seen that painting before. Let's assume it's hanging in a gallery in the UK somewhere. So I move my little pin up to the UK, drop it there and say guess, and it tells me, nah, wrong. That is actually hanging in, it's actually hanging in a gallery in Rio de Janeiro, funnily enough. Okay, so I was wrong there. I only got 7 points. So you go to the next round, it gives you another painting, that one there. I don't know, but I think that's French because it looks pretty, oops, sorry. It looks pretty impressionistic. So maybe I'll drag my little pin up here and drop it in France somewhere and guess. No, completely wrong. It's in South Africa. Right. Now, if you don't know where a painting is, you can, in fact, just tap it like that and say view that on Google Arts and Culture, and it will take you to that painting. This place, this time it's called Cartel a las Fiestas del Oeste. I don't speak French, but sorry, Spanish, but It's in the National Museum of Puerto Rican Arts and Culture. So you can come in here, you can explore it, you can learn more about it. And I find that the arts and culture collection is just this amazing learning by serendipity. You just keep tripping over interesting things and going down rabbit holes. There's rarely a nice linear path through here. So that's another game you can play in there. Here's another interesting one. This game's called What Came First, and it will throw up here 2 cultural artifacts. It's having a little think. Where's my cultural artifacts? Try again. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'll just skip that intro. So it'll give you 2 things, and you have to say, which one do you think came first? So I might pick on someone here. Jenny, we are looking at the Tokyo Tower in Japan, and we don't know what year it opened. And we're also looking at the Golden Gate Bridge in the United States, and we also don't know what year it opened. But which one do you think came first? Oh,
it just said.
Just said. All right, Jenny. All right, so we do the next one. We got to be quicker this time. All right, that was my fault for talking too much. Okay, continue. Is it the Kurobe Dam in Japan, or is it Aretha Franklin? Who came first?
Kurobe Dam.
Kurobe Dam.
Oh.
Oh, no, it wasn't. 1953. Okay, we'll try another one. You get another chance. The Monarch of the Glen by Sir Edward Landseer, or The Invention of Volleyball by William Morgan. Which came first?
Volleyball.
Volleyball? Let's see. Oh, no. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's all right. I'll let you off the hook. But you get the idea, right? This is full of games and fun and things you can do. Now, there's another thing in here I want to show you. This is an interesting one called Art Selfie. So if I go to Art Selfie, what it does is it opens up my my camera, right? And you take a selfie of yourself like this. It will analyze the selfie and then try and find portraits in its collection that look a bit like you, according to the AI. So the AI reckons I look a little bit like this person in the Rijksmuseum there, with a 62% match. I can go over there. This guy from the Buenos Aires Museum of Modern Art, portraits of Ignacio Pirovano, reckons it looks a bit like me. I'm not sure. And again, whether it is actually looking like you or not, it's not the point. The point is it starts an interesting conversation about art. It starts you looking at things. It starts you talking about, what is a match? What does it look like? Where does this painting come from? Like, there's just so many interesting conversations that can come from here. You can also, I believe, do pet portraits as well. I don't have a pet, but if you have a cat or something, you can take a photo of the cat and match that.
Chris, can I just ask?
Yeah.
If, say, for example, I went into a museum and I saw a painting in an actual museum, would it bring me information up, or does it have to be what's literally in the Google gallery?
So it's whatever's in the collection, but the collection is pretty big. So, for example, do you have a painting in mind?
No, I'm just going to Europe in about a month's time. So I was just thinking, for a couple of weeks, if I see something there, how could I use Google here?
So I believe we now partner with over 3,000 different museums around the world.
Okay.
We've catalogued a lot of their collections. I don't know the exact number of how many artifacts are in here, but it's in the millions.
Okay.
And so there's a pretty good chance if you go to a gallery, you'll find something. So I've just hit the
Could you use Google Lens?
page. What was that?
Could you use Google Lens
to find it? Possibly, yeah, quite possibly. Like I've just walked in here. Let's Sandra, can you think of a painting name we can search for?
Oh, let's start with the Mona Lisa.
Mona Lisa.
I didn't know that one's going to be there, but yeah.
So Mona Lisa. So we'll click on that, and we'll see. So interesting.
Or even like you say, Van Gogh's flowers, something along those lines, Picasso, whatever.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. In fact, there's an exhibit in here that's been on for a little while now called Leonardo. There's a whole theme in here about Leonardo, uncover the myths, masterpieces, and genius of Leonardo da Vinci. So there's a whole thing about him. meet the polymath. What do you really know about Da Vinci? You can browse his notebooks, see his inventions in 3D. Oh, let's check that out. Leonardo's inventions in 3D. What do we got here? Loading. Oh, there you go. So like there's his flying machine that he invented, and you can pick it up with your finger and move it around, look at it from different angles. Go to the next thing. The Leocopter. The glider, which I believe that one's not animated, but like and you can zoom in and sort of get a closer view on stuff. What else is in here? 1,000 sketches from Leonardo's notebooks. A little thing. Here's an interesting game. I like this. I was playing with this earlier today. Leonardo was a prolific inventor. So what you can do is you can take two ideas he might have been playing with in his mind. Like, for example, let's try, what do we got here? The Codex Atlanticus. Okay, so we're going to take that and drag that down there and combine it with a cat. And then the AI will try and take those two ideas and generate a new idea based on those two things. Again, like, how could you use that in the classroom? Like getting kids to combine ideas, getting them to think about what actually is creativity. Like, can you combine two ideas and come up with something new? And what does that mean in terms of the process of creativity? And when does an idea become useful, and what makes an idea useless? So, you know, I think just so many things in here you can play with. So what I was going to do as part of our little get together this afternoon, have you all had a chance to download the app or open it up on your computer and have a little look? Yeah, okay. So what I thought I might do is just because we're only a fairly small group today, it's just I want to give you a few minutes to just have a bit of a browse through. Use the search function if you want, or just browse through. And I want you to find something that catches your attention, something you think is interesting. And then if you're open to the idea, just to come back and just spend 30 seconds or so just sharing that with the group. Tell us about something you found in the Arts and Culture collection that you thought was interesting. And your time starts now. By the way, Sandra, I did just find the actual Mona Lisa here.
Oh, good.
So you can see there it is there. And if I just slide up there, I can read more about it. Tells me a little bit about it. Go into the details. It'll tell me how big it is, when it was made, where it's currently located, blah, 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 all of that sort of stuff.
So I'll just type in the title.
And if I go in augmented reality, let's see what, because it is quite a small painting, Karen, isn't it?
It's a lot smaller than I imagined.
Oh, there you go. Actually, maybe that's not giving me the real size there, because I think that's bigger than it really is. But anyway, that's what it would look like in my room if I was to steal it.
I just found on part of it for historical events.
Yeah.
And it's got lots of pictures. It depicts a year, and it shows you all the photos that were taken, which is great for history.
Yeah. Do you teach history, Lorna?
I'm in a primary school, so I cover all areas.
All things, yeah, yeah.
But I'm a kinder teacher, but
Yep.
there's still things that it's nice to see.
Yeah.
Well, good to see, really, not nice all the time. But I have teenage children that love history. So for me,
Yeah.
that would be great to use with them.
You know what I did find as I browsed through this collection a lot is things that I've heard of in history that I didn't really understand a lot, that it actually unpacks and tells the story of really nicely. One of them was like, I don't know if you remember the Solidarity movement in Poland back in I think it was in the late 80s, early 90s maybe, which led to the fall of the Berlin Wall. And like, I never really understood that. My father was Polish, and so I heard him talking about it, but like, didn't really understand the story behind it. But reading through about it in the Arts and Culture collection, it actually starts to show you, like, this is Lech Wałęsa, the guy that started the whole movement, and here's some documents that were signed, and here's when it led to the fall of the wall, and like it unpacks the history in a way that makes it really easy to understand with real artifacts from that history.
Well, I just selected one of the paintings, and then it had a spot where I could click selfie, and I actually smiled and changed the picture, the painting, and it smiled, and it took a selfie of me and changed it. So I wanted to show you before I experiment with the other ones, because it can be, yeah, it's called a filter, I think it is. Yeah, okay, yeah. I can just turn myself into a skeleton.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I was saying to Karen earlier today that the hardest part about trying to explain arts and culture to anybody is that there is really no beginning and no end as such. Like, it is just this massive collection,
Like,
and every person's path through it will be different.
That's hilarious.
You probably
Susan, did you find
find
it? Sorry, Lorna, go.
I was going to say that you called it a rabbit hole earlier, and it
Yep.
would be, instead of sitting and doing my planning, I'd probably get caught up in going into a picture and then going to the next bit and the next bit, and before I know it, it's time to go to bed and I haven't done my planning.
Now, because it is a bit of a rabbit hole, and because it is easy to get lost in here, I will just show you one thing that I think is kind of cool. Let's just say, so this picture here of the christening of, I'm assuming, who was this christening of? The christening of Prince Charles, right? Let's just say for whatever reason you decided you wanted to do some class activity around this picture. You maybe get the kids to have a close look at it, or talk about it, or, you know, answer some questions, whatever. You might want to link them directly to this picture rather than have them get lost down that rabbit hole. You'll notice down the bottom of this there is a little heart, and if you tap the heart, it adds it to your favorites collection, right? So anything you like in here that you want to find again, tap the heart and it'll keep it for you. And so long as you're logged in with the same Google account on a computer and your phone, it will synchronize across both of those devices. But next to that, you'll notice there's the little share button, the little sort of,
Yeah, I got that.
so if you click on that, you can actually copy the URL, and then you can take that URL and paste it in anywhere you like. Now, if your school uses Google Classroom, one of the things you can really easily do in Google Classroom is create a piece of material or an assignment for students that has a link in it. So you can link students directly to a deep link inside the Arts and Culture collection. And of course, you know, you can have more than one link in a Google Classroom assignment too. So if you wanted to, say, pick 2 or 3 things and get students to do like a compare and contrast, or, you know, or a, you know, an event over time or whatever, you can always use more than one thing. Susan, did you find anything interesting that you wanted to share with us? Oh, my phone's gone to sleep.
I also like how they become animated. Like, you can make the paintings become animated.
Yes.
Like, they actually move. It's not just sort of standing up as a, you know, the actual within the picture, it's moving.
Yep, absolutely. And if you look at the headings across the top, you've got things like travel, design, nature, fashion, for example. So, you know, you might be doing a unit of work on fashion. So there's a whole bunch of things in here that you can look at, from, you know, traditional sort of, ancient cultural fashion type things, all the way up to sort of, you know, modern fashion designers. You can dig through all of that sort of stuff. The travel section will take you into different cities and places around the world. So, you know, I'm just looking, here's a thing on Petra in Egypt. So you can go in there and explore. Sorry, not Egypt, Jordan, I meant to say. So you can sort of go and explore that. There is just so much in here.
So Chris, I jumped into the historical figures and looked up Joseph Stalin, because he was born in Georgia, and some of the images that were there we saw in the museum to Stalin when we were in Georgia a few years ago. So it brought back memories, and you could actually use that to sort of talk to some of the students. And I was thinking, Sandra, if the students took their own selfies, they could actually write a quick story or something about why they chose that particular filter, and you could sort of generate a bit of a storybook for, if you're a Year 6 class, say, and introducing kids to buddies, getting them to write stories about themselves and that sort of stuff. So
yeah. Well, we're doing myths and legends next term, so that could be interesting there as well.
I just went in here and found the portrait of Stalin, and if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see you can do things like the things that it's connected to. So it's connected to Russia, this explore connection. So when you go in there, it's going to then go and try and look for how that connects to other aspects of history. I could not load the connection for the given asset ID. Okay, well, maybe we won't do that one. But there's just so much in here.
Like, look at that. My face is literally gone underwater. Like, the kids could put that and upload that photograph, create their own story, like onto any platform. You can put that on Google Slides, Google Doc, whatever they want. And then that's fascinating.
Can you export that out as an image?
Let me try. It's weird seeing your face on there like that, but yes, you can. I'm going to send it to myself as even Messenger.
Sandra, where did you get that picture from?
It's called a filter on here. But it's got so many awesome images on there along the bottom, like different artworks and so forth. And I'm just sliding across. There's some brilliant ones with yeah. Here, also an astronaut. I'll take one of myself with an astronaut going to space. Yep. So here I'm going into space now. I'm in my spacesuit.
Now, on the front page here, I know nobody needs more email, right? But if you want, on the front page, if you scroll to the very bottom, there's an option there to sign up for the newsletter. And every week they will just send you like a little, here's some of the interesting stuff that's happening in arts and culture this week.
Yeah.
Obviously,
if you find that one, it sort of goes through and makes all of the outlets come to life. So that's where I'm in to make all those changes. But
okay.
Oh, very Harry Potter.
It is.
There's a few scary ones in there, mind you, but
I don't know where you found that one. Is that in the play section? Camera?
I'm scared to go out because I like it. I'm fiddling with it.
Art filter? Become an art
filter, yes.
Filter, okay. Art filter.
So is that in the play section?
It is, yes. If you go into the play section and then I tapped camera at the top of the page then, and you'll see art filter is one of the options.
Okay.
I like this one too. Art transfer is if you go in here and choose art transfer, you can pick a photo from your collection. So let's just pick this one here, right? So you pick a photo and then apply a filter to it. So here is a photo of me in the style of Edvard Munch of the Scream, right? Or maybe I can do that and do apply the style Van Gogh.
The kids would love this. So this works just as well on clicking on a URL and typing in Google Arts and Culture.
Correct, yeah, artsandculture.google.com.
Yeah, saved it.
So you can do that on your computer, and most of the stuff you can do on the computer, but there's a few things that it's just easier on the phone because the phone's got a camera on it, and if you're looking around a location, it can detect the movement of the phone to sort of move around smoothly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And since you're so well versed with AI, Say, for example, I had a song that I've sort of written and so forth, and
Yeah.
you'd like to put music together for it. How, like copyright wise, how does that work?
If you wanted to, so anything this generated would you all use copyright approved stuff. Oh, there's me as Rosie the Riveter. We can do it.
I was the lady with the pearl earrings, but yeah, that looks better.
Yeah, so in terms of like anything that would be generated inside arts and culture would have all the copyright cleared.
Right. Okay. That's
for
good.
use. Anything, I mean, if you pull stuff out of it and make it external to this, then I guess all the usual rules of copyright apply.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There's something else you said there that made me think of something. What was it? Okay, I think now. Art filter, that's the art filter one. There's also the labs. Oh, so yeah, here's some interesting ones too. So if you go to the labs section, so in the play category, across the top it says labs, and these are just silly ideas that some of our engineers are playing around with. I tried this one this morning too, Beethoven beats. This one works best if I turn my phone to the side, I believe. Skip that intro. Oh, I don't have to. So dig this. So if I tap my screen just in a random pattern like this, right, it will then find a piece of music. Are you getting any music on that? No.
No.
Maybe I'll turn the sound off.
Yeah.
You might have to do this on yours just to hear it, because I think I've turned the sound off here. But if you just tap out a random rhythm, it will find you a piece of music that exists somewhere in history that someone has written that uses that beat, and it will overlay it on top of your tapping sounds.
No way. Okay, so where was that again? So I have to move, the cleaners are coming in. I'll go in another person's classroom.
If you go into the play section,
Yes.
and then look at the top of the screen, there's a category called labs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called Beethoven beats.
Okay. All right. There's even a part where you can find, not that I'm into horoscopes, but you can find artists who have the same horoscope as you.
Correct, I saw that. Yeah. Kind of fun.
Yeah.
There's games there, and we played like the Geo artwork one. Blob Opera is an interesting one too, just to have a play with. But do we have sound? We don't have sound. Why don't we have sound? Make sound. Maybe if you get a chance to play with it, this one called Blob Opera is a lot of fun as well. But again, I don't think I'm able to push sound through here, so
Okay.
I'm not going to be helpful. But you get these little blobs, and as you touch the blobs, they sing different notes, and you can make them sing like an opera.
That's very cute.
So lots and lots of stuff to explore. There's an art coloring book. Let's do this wave. The famous Japanese wave. But let's do it in different colors. I remember when I first started teaching art, I found a computer program, this is years and years ago, where the kids could recolor an image. And so we recolored an image in cool colors, and then we recolored it in warm colors, and we got to talk about the effect of color on mood, things like that. I'm just wondering, you could probably do something similar with this as well. Interesting. Okay. I like that. I'll keep that. There's also, if any of you are on the socials, if you're on Twitter, or X as they now call it, or Instagram, there's also some social channels down the bottom there as well if you want to follow on Instagram and get some regular updates, hear what's going on with the collection.
Mm-hmm.
The team that builds this is all around the world. They have a lot of folk from Europe that work on this, folks in the States. We did have someone in Australia working on it. I don't know if we still do.
Okay, there's games on here as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know if you've seen this one. This is called Art Crossword. So if I take a puzzle, a piece here, and drag it in there, I have to make a crossword puzzle. So that's a picture of little piggy people.
Mine's find the AI generated object out of the 4 objects.
So if I put Van Gogh in the middle, then Van Gogh would go on one of those sides and one of those sides. And Gauguin would go across the other way because they were friends. No, remove the wrong items. I know why. Because I've lost it. There we go. Continue. Continue. Back to game. That's what I want. Those two need to swap around. So all of those pictures across. That way. There you go. I made it. All the pictures going up and down are all by Van Gogh, but the middle one is a painting of Gauguin by Van Gogh, and all the pictures going across are pictures by Gauguin, including one of Gauguin. Anyway, visual crossword puzzles. All right. I think I have introduced you to the rabbit hole, and I don't know if there's much else I can tell you other than try not to get too lost in there. Karen, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, because I'm down the rabbit hole.
Exactly.
I'm going to what came first, which I think you showed us ages ago.
I did. Yep. There is just so much in.
Just a very big thank you for your time this afternoon. Every time I go into arts and culture, I find something else that really excites me. So, yeah, thank you very much. And thank you, Susan, Lorna and Sandra for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Yeah, welcome. I'm down the rabbit hole now.
Hey, Susan, did you find anything particularly that grabbed you?
Well, I'm looking at the history. So I think I could use that, and maybe some of the cultural landmarks.
Right.
Something like that is where I'd be looking at the moment. This is so vast. I would
really
need
is.
like 6 months to prepare.
It really is. And I guess if I can leave you with one message is like, just don't forget this collection exists, because I think I'm always kind of amazed when I talk to people, especially teachers, but people in general, and I mention arts and culture and people look at me and go, I've never heard of that. What is that? Right. And I'm well aware that most people have no idea that this even exists, but when they do discover it, they kind of are overwhelmed by what's in here. But yeah, try and figure out ways you could invest this into your teaching practice, because I think kids would really love it.
Yeah.
It's colourful, it's visual, it's fun, and it's got lots of possibilities.
Agreed.
And the selfies are just, you won't stop the kids using those.
No.
Or teachers for that matter, Sandra, is that right?
I know, I'm a bit fixated on it now.
Well, actually, I'll tell you what. Just before we do wrap up, one thing I do want to show you. I just thought of it, Woolaroo. So there's a thing in here called Woolaroo, which was a little project that was started by one of our engineers who works out of the Auckland office in New Zealand. And his concern was that there were languages in the world that were starting to get lost because they have very small language bases. So he was primarily talking about Māori, but there's a lot of Aboriginal languages which we'll probably lose because there's just not enough speakers of those languages. There's languages like that all around the world. So there's this thing inside arts and culture called Woolaroo, and I'll just quickly show you what it is. So if I come in here and open it up, and so you get started. So what it is it uses AI and a tool that Google have called Lens, where you can use Lens to point your phone at something and it will identify it. So Lens, which is probably part of your computer's camera, certainly if you've got an Android phone anyway, where you can use the camera to identify things like flowers or artworks or objects, and it will tell you what they are. So with this one, you can see there, if I pointed at something so you can read it, there you go. You can pick a language, and these are all sort of threatened languages that don't have a large speaker base. And I believe there is an Aboriginal language in here somewhere. Which one is it? Yugambeh, which I think is the Aboriginal language spoke around the sort of the Brisbane area, from memory. So when you say go, what that will do is it opens up the camera. Now, if I point the camera at something it can recognize, like say that microphone, right? If it can recognize what that is, it will tell me, I don't know what the Aboriginal word for microphone is. Maybe there isn't one, right? So the word for computer, a jungana bawal. The word for laptop is a jungana bawaburu, right? So it's actually identifying things in the picture and then mapping them out to Aboriginal languages, or in this case, an Aboriginal language. Now, the interesting thing about this project is it's open source, so that if you happen to speak a threatened language, or you know people that do, they're able to pretty easily contribute to this project. I believe all they have to do is submit like a spreadsheet of like a dictionary, like a vocabulary list, and you can import it in here and actually have an additional supported language. So kind of interesting too, like just getting kids to think about language and how languages survive and what different words mean in different languages. Again, just another cool thing that's inside arts and culture.
Beautiful. There's even games. The kids would love those. You pick your own icon.
Oh, nice.
And then play, which could be, maybe not what we want them to do, but.
All learning.
Yeah, true.
I'm going to stop that. Okay.
So just a question, Chris, before you go.
Yeah.
There's the option, of course, of using the phone.
Yep.
How about on an iPad? Will that have the same functionality as a phone?
I believe so, yeah. Do I have my iPad here?
See, we don't encourage the kids to bring phones into the classroom. I can see the value, of course, for a lesson, but it has other problems that come with it. We do have iPads, though, that we supply them with, and I just wondered if it worked as well on an iPad.
Before I say definitively yes or no, yes, I'm just looking at my iPad here. I know you can't see that screen, but there is an arts and culture app. Sorry.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
But yes, there is an arts and culture app, and it should do most of the same things. So I will have a little play with that later too, because I'm always learning as well.
Chris, once again, thank you very much. And thank you to those that were able to join us this afternoon. Another great session, and I'll catch up with you again sometime.
No worries. I will stop the recording, but if anyone wants to hang around for a couple of minutes, if they have any questions, happy to hang around. All right. Thanks everyone for joining.
Okay, thanks.